The core machinery of modern government, the Senate halls, the veto powers, the concept of a republic, originated within an ancient superpower that organized human society on a scale that still defines the present. At its peak, the reach of this society was staggering. If you were alive 2,000 years ago, there was a 20% chance you lived under Roman rule. 1 in every 5 humans on Earth was a subject of Rome. Long before they conquered the known world, the Romans were a vulnerable group of farmers. In 625 BC, Rome consisted of a tiny, muddy trading settlement clustered on the banks of the Tiber River. Tracking how that small river town expanded to dominate the globe and eventually collapsed into ashes reveals the mechanics of how modern states survive and exactly how they fail. Rome did not begin as a republic. Its first 6 centuries were overseen by a monarchy, though with a unique check on power. The kings were not strictly hereditary. They were elected by a ruling body of elders known as the Senate. That system broke in 509 BC. The 7th king, Tarquin the Proud, ruled as a tyrant. After his son committed a horrific crime against a noblewoman named Lucretia, the citizens reached a breaking point. The public and the nobles united, rioted in the streets, and stripped the monarchy of its power. In place of a king, they built an experimental system, the Republic. Society was split in 2. The working-class plebeians made up the broad base, while wealthy patricians controlled the Senate. Together, they voted to elect 2 consuls who shared executive power. This mechanism was designed specifically to prevent any single person from becoming a monarch again. Yet, by hardwiring a strict divide between the rich elite and the working class, this system planted the seeds of its own destruction. For centuries, the Republic functioned as an aggressive military machine. Rome conquered the Italian peninsula and then destroyed its greatest rival, Carthage. Across 3 brutal Punic wars, the Roman legions decimated the North African city-state, killing or enslaving hundreds of thousands of people. As Rome swallowed new territories, it absorbed their wealth and knowledge. When they conquered Greece, the Romans integrated Hellenic philosophy, art, and architecture into their society, adopting elements like the towering Corinthian columns for their temples. But winning had a toxic side effect. The massive influx of foreign gold and slave labor made the patrician class unimaginably rich, while ordinary plebeians lost their farms. Whenever politicians tried to enact land reforms or speak for the poor, the elite class had them assassinated in the streets. Violence replaced voting as the primary tool of political negotiation. Decades of targeted killings and civil wars eroded the democratic norms the Republic had built, creating an unstable vacuum waiting for a strongman. Rome had eliminated its foreign rivals. Now its deadliest threat was its own success and the resulting domestic inequality. That strongman arrived in 58 BC. Julius Caesar launched a ruthless campaign into Gaul. Over 6 years, his legions fought roughly 3 million Gauls, crushing the resistance led by Vercingetorix. The campaign left 1 million dead and elevated Caesar to hero status back in Rome. Terrified by his popularity and loyal army, the Senate ordered Caesar to step down. Instead, he marched his troops across the Rubicon River, intentionally triggering a civil war against his former ally, Pompey. Caesar destroyed Pompey's forces and seized total control. He declared himself dictator for life. By initiating massive public works and reforming laws to benefit the poor, he became beloved by the lower classes, solidifying his absolute autocracy. A faction within the Senate saw him as a tyrant who needed to be stopped. On the Ides of March in 44 BC, a group of senators surrounded Caesar and stabbed him 23 times, convinced they were saving the Republic. Their plan backfired. The citizens turned on the assassins, and the Republic was never restored. The assassination proved that political institutions no longer held weight. Power in Rome now belonged strictly to whoever controlled the military. Another civil war erupted only when Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, crushed the forces of Mark Antony. Taking the title Emperor Augustus, he formally ended the Republican experiment and birthed the Roman Empire. Augustus instituted 41 years of stability known as the Pax Romana. But because the system relied on the whims of a single ruler, it eventually descended into chaos. Later emperors brought terror. Caligula executed innocent people out of paranoia, and Nero emptied the treasury while parts of his city burned. Yet, the bureaucratic machine of the empire was robust enough to survive these erratic leaders. Under the later Flavian dynasty, the state executed massive public works, erecting colossal structures like the Colosseum to keep the public entertained and compliant. This structure eventually produced a golden age under the good emperors. Trajan pushed the empire to its maximum territorial extent, laying down vast road networks, while the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius successfully defended those borders between his military campaigns. When society operates under a dictatorship, periods of prosperity are entirely dependent on the lottery of putting a sane person on the throne. One bad successor, and the entire system risks collapse. Following the death of Marcus Aurelius, that collapse arrived. The empire plunged into the crisis of the 3rd century, a period of anarchy where the military constantly mutinied and over 25 emperors were assassinated in just 100 years. Emperor Diocletian introduced a drastic administrative solution in 285 AD. He cut the empire in half, splitting the administration into western and eastern zones. To manage this division, he created the Tetrarchy, distributing power among 4 men, 2 emperors and 2 deputies. But civil wars resumed, won by Constantine the Great. Before a critical battle, Constantine claimed to see a divine sign in the sky. He adopted Christianity, legalized it, and used the religion to culturally unite his fractured forces. It was not enough to save the West. Paralyzed by economic decline and political rot, the Western Empire was repeatedly sacked by Germanic tribes. In 476 AD, invaders deposed the final Western emperor, a teenager ironically named Romulus, effectively destroying the Roman state in Europe. A massive structure rarely falls just from outside pressure. It crumbles when the inside rots. The Eastern Byzantine Empire maintained its economic engines and structural integrity, allowing it to survive for another 1,000 years, while the West collapsed under its own dysfunction. The physical borders of the Western Roman Empire vanished from the maps, but the structural legacy of the state persisted. It evolved. The transport maps of modern Europe still follow the ancient cobblestone networks laid by Roman legions. Our legal codes, our public architecture, and our representative democracies are direct descendants of this 2,000-year experiment. Rome demonstrates the heights human organization can reach, but its long, violent decline serves as a warning. When inequality, political violence, and internal division take root, even the most dominant systems eventually shatter.